Gabriel Moss, born on April 23, 2003, and who passed away on October 28, 2013, was a 10-year-old American girl who was starved to death by her stepmother in Lawrenceville, Georgia, in 2013. The case sparked child welfare reform in Georgia. Tiffany Nicole Moss, born July 1983, was condemned to death for murdering Emoni in 2019. The murder garnered international notice. The crime's severity: Moss physically assaulted Emoni for years before her death, drew attention. Moss starved Emoni in 2013. Emoni's father, was rarely home. On October 28, 2013, Emoni starved to death. She died at 32 pounds, a toddler's weight. The Georgia Division of Family and Child Services, GDFCS, changed various systems after the murder. Emoni confessed in 2015. Moss, who represented herself, was convicted on all charges in April 2019. On May 1, 2019, she was sentenced to death. Georgia's lone female death row inmate is at Arendelle State Prison. Emoni Gabriel Moss was born on April 23, 2003. After Emoni's birth, her drug-addicted mother gave up her parental rights, and her father, Emoni, took custody. Emoni's mother has 5 children. Her mother relinquished all parental rights. Emoni was convicted of violence and second-degree child abuse in 2004 for beating Emoni's birth mother in front of her. Emoni nurtured Emoni and frequently took her to Freedom Christian Church. He met preschool instructor Tiffany Moss. Emoni and Tiffany married in July 2009 and had a son and a daughter. Tiffany mistreated Emoni, but no records exist for her biological children. After Moss was fired for hitting Emoni in March 2010, the abuse increased. Emoni, aged 6, told a school nurse she was scared her parents would hurt her if she got a bad report card. She informed the nurse that her stepmother spanked her with a curtain rod. Emoni was escorted to police headquarters when the nurse found scabs, bruises, and welts on her arms, back, chest, legs, and shoulders. Tiffany faced first-degree child cruelty charges. Tiffany admits to beating Emoni 3 times for not doing her schoolwork. She pleaded guilty and received 5 years probation under Georgia's First Offender Program. GDFCS signed the plea agreement. Tiffany and Emoni's GDFCS case was dropped after parenting classes. Emoni spent 6 months with her grandma Robin after the March 2010 beating. Emoni's schoolwork improved. In October 2010, the GDFCS restored Emoni to Emoni after he struggled for custody. Robin sought her granddaughter. She could not get custody of Emoni, even though she suspected abuse. At trial, prosecutors said that the March 2010 event started a cycle of abuse that killed Emoni. Moss was fired from preschool after pleading guilty to abusing Emoni. She resented Emoni for the job loss. Moss continued abusing Emoni for years. Emoni fled home twice in July 2012. She informed the apartment office that she wanted to run away because Moss had tied her up with a belt and put her in a freezing shower. Moss informed the cops that Emoni lied. Emoni returned to Emoni and Moss because there was insufficient evidence to charge anyone. Emoni ran away again in July 2012 and was caught resting in an apartment complex's bushes by a police officer. Emoni informed the officer that she fled because her stepmother was cruel. The officer told the GDFCS about the situation and charged Emoni with running away and breaking her curfew so that she would have to go before a juvenile court judge. The Moss family moved frequently from 2011 to 2013. Working long hours, Emoni rarely saw his daughter. He testified at trial that she ate a lot when he watched the kids on weekends. Emoni rarely saw family when the Mosses lived alone. Emoni's sister Sharonice hosted Mother's Day for the Mosses in 2013. Sharonice and Robin saw Emoni's haircut. "If you act ugly, you should look ugly," Moss told Robin when questioned. Sharonice sensed Emoni's timidity. Emoni and Moss homeschooled Emoni after the 2012 to 2013 school year. Sharonice called the GDFCS to protest the notion. They declined. Emoni looked to be thin when the GDFCS received an anonymous report on August 6, 2013. Robin sued the GDFCS for failing to visit the home and follow up because to having no current address and no present abuse. Mom's Day, the 12th of May, only Emoni's father, stepmother, and siblings saw her alive in 2013. In late summer 2013, Emoni, Moss, their children, and Emoni moved to an apartment in Lawrenceville, Georgia. For all intents and purposes, Emoni vanished from the face of the earth, said District Attorney Danny Porter. Emoni worked 2 jobs, keeping him away from Emoni. He left for his first work in the morning, returned in the late afternoon, left for his second job about 6 p.m., and returned around 10:30 or 11 p.m. Moss watched the kids while Emoni worked. Moss starved Emoni. Prosecutors say the malnutrition lasted weeks. Emoni was confined to her bedroom. Moss's biological children were the only ones neighbors saw. Emoni grew too weak to leave her bed, urinate, or feces. Moss fed her 2 children but not Emoni. She texted Emoni images of her children's meals on multiple occasions and urged her husband to bring home cookie dough to make. Prosecutors noted that Emoni would have smelled the cookies while starved to death. Dr. Staffenberg, the trial medical examiner, said starving to death was terrible. Emoni initially suffered hunger pangs. She would have been exhausted. She lost weight and energy until she died. Emoni thought Emoni had a seizure on October 24, early evening. Moss informed Emoni that Emoni was ill when he returned home. He discovered his kids shaking in the bathtub. Emoni was unresponsive, her eyes rolling. Emoni spent 2 days in Emoni's bed. Emoni attempted to feed her but failed. Emoni died October 28, 2013. Emoni died of more or less skin and bones, according to Dr. Staffenberg. She weighed 32 pounds, 15 kilos, the normal 3-year-old. Her autopsy revealed tiny organs. Moss informed Emoni of Emoni's death at work on October 28. At trial, Emoni said he returned home to a normal household with the kids playing and Moss watching TV. His daughter was on a blanket on her bedroom floor. He told his wife to call the police, but she said she would lose her children. Moss told Emoni to be on our criminal mentality and hide Emoni's body. Emoni carried Emoni to the computer room in blankets. The couple lived normally after keeping Emoni's body in their apartment for several days. At trial, Emoni said he would work and grieve at home with Emoni's body. The Mosses concealed Emoni's death. Moss bought new sheets and a coverall from Anna's Linens the day following Emoni's death because Emoni's were covered in feces and pee. Moss suggested burying Emoni and declaring her a runaway. Walmart sold Emoni a galvanized garbage can, trash bags, charcoal, and lighter fluid. On Halloween, Moss and Emoni burned Emoni's remains in the trash. They used duct tape to crush her rigor mortis stiff body before putting her in the trash can. Emoni covered her. The Mosses put Emoni's body in the trash bag. On November 1, the Moss couple put Emoni's body in a garbage bin and drove with their children to burn it. They burned the car in a remote area and took the trash bin. They poured lighter fluid on Emoni's body, put charcoal briquettes in the can, and lit it. The pair saw the body burn but not to ash. They quenched the fire and returned Emoni's body and garbage can to the apartment after 5 minutes. Judge George Hutchinson presided over Moss's April 15, 2019, trial. The jury had 6 men and 2 counts of cruelty to minors, and 1 count of concealing a death. The jury deliberated for under 3 hours. Moss did not address the jury, give mitigating evidence, or hear anyone speak on her behalf during sentencing. She also declined to conclude. Porter claimed in the darkness will always emerge. He also suggested that Moss would never regret her acts, so life without parole would be better than death. Deliberations commenced after closing arguments. Judge Hutchinson instructed them to sleep on it after the first day because they were conflicted. They sentenced Moss to death the following day. May 1 saw sentencing. Moss, then 36, was sentenced to death by lethal injection by Judge Hutchinson. Georgia executed Moss for the first time in 5 years. Judge Hutchinson set her execution for June 7 to 14, 2019. Porter stated, "A jury's death sentence isn't fun. I've seen worse cases. First glance made you nauseous. Last glance makes you nauseous." The appeals process automatically stayed the execution from June 7 to 14. Arundel State Prison holds Georgia's lone female death row inmate. Moss would be Georgia's third woman hanged since 1945. Moss appealed with legal representation. After her death sentence, the Georgia Capitol Defender Organization filed a plea for a new trial, saying that Moss was incompetent to represent her. Her lawyers say Moss has neuropsychological testing evidence that indicated the defendant had damage to the promotor and prefrontal regions of the brain. August 23, 2019 saw a motion status hearing. Emoni and Moss, who were still married, lost custody of their 2 children after Emoni's murder. The kids were fostered. Moss, Emoni, and their mother sought custody. Porter informed the local press that the foster parents adopted the youngsters in 2019. Emoni's 3-year-old son remembered the murder. Porter said the children were doing fantastic in April 2019 and may never know what happened. Georgia's child protection system was criticized and changed after Emoni's murder. After the program assistant, others were reprimanded. Following the murder, the department overhauled its abuse investigations and maltreatment report writing. New case managers and supervisors reduced their caseloads. Agency personnel no longer base investigations on phone calls alone. No case is downgraded until a caseworker meets a child who claims abuse. After many abuse-related deaths, including Emoni's, Governor Nathan Deal set up the Child Welfare Reform Council. Georgia's child protection system received recommendations from the council in January 2015. In 2018, Emoni's grandmother, Robin, sued the GDFCS in Gwinnett County State Court. She said that caseworkers knew that the Moss family's living conditions were getting worse and that they were being abused and could have helped them sooner. Robin also sued DHS. She wants a jury and fair compensatory damages. Because DFCS and its employees were careless, Emoni was abused and starved on a regular basis from 2008 until her sad death, the lawsuit says. The lawsuit says, as a direct and proximate result of the wrongdoing of the defendant, the plaintiff is entitled to recover for Emoni's wrongful death, including the full value of the economic and non-economic value of her life had she lived.